You may not be able to see this. I don't know how to get it without a glare, but this is when I came home from the hospital. Entitled this, "There are better ways than this to get into the newspaper." This is an article that was done on me in December. I had the wreck October 1995, and there's an article in here about the precious lady that was in the car wreck with me. She died instantly. She was blind. She'd been mama to me for about, 17 years. A wonderful lady. But anyway, this has a picture of me and my wife, Eileen. And you can see there perhaps the halo on the end of my leg. The leg was hanging on by skin. Of course, the article goes on and talks about the places that I was swelling. My stomach was swollen, my head, my neck was swollen, my chest was swollen. My wife says about 12 inches, and the ankle, of course, the kneecap was rolled off. It was actually rolled back and broken in half, and the ankle was hanging on just by skin. The ankle was shattered. They say even today that I do not have an ankle. And I've done pretty well. I don't have any movement in it. So about 10 years after the wreck, I was having an awful lot of pain. And I went to some orthopedic specialist surgeons to see what they could do. And of course, said we confused it. And so you'd be laid up for about 6 months. So I said, I can't move it now. I had 9 screws and a plate in there. I got 8 screws and a plate right now. And the doctor, Dr. Oakley, was my physician. And he would come into the room and be on one side of the bed, and he'd look at that leg and said, maybe we can do something. And he'd walk on the other side of that bed and he'd look and say, man, that's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't see any way that we can save that. And he would make that trip several times, and my wife was saying in her mind, why don't you just stay on this side of the bed? It's better when you get on this side. He did not know what he was going to do. He absolutely did not. As a matter of fact, they didn't think he was going to do surgery, as I've said in one of the other tapes. They kind of pushed me over the corner and let me die because he gave me basically 30 minutes to live. Well, Dr. Oakley kept working with this ankle, put a halo on it, and of course that was excruciating. The halo has got 4 screws through it. They screw all the way through the bone in my leg. The bone was broken down at the ankle. Well, both bones broke, the small bone and the big bone as well. But they were able to put a plate on the small bone, but the big bone they couldn't. And so he talked about the surgery, and as a matter of fact, they were going to come in one day and he was going to adjust that halo. And he said, any way they move that halo, it's excruciating pain, because they actually at one point in time they could take the screw loose, take the halo off of one side and move that bone up and down. I actually did an x-ray where she was holding the bone up and down, so it was not healing. And so it was really a difficult time for me. And so they told me he was going to come in one day and look at that leg and see what he was going to do as far as surgery was concerned. Well, I got up the next morning, because didn't do much sleeping, was in a lot of pain. You really, to roll over at all, you had to have somebody help you roll over, because I couldn't move that halo. It was too heavy. At any rate, he didn't show up. I figured it'd be early that morning. He didn't show up. He didn't show up at 9 or 10 or 11 or 12, and I figured surely he'd be there, maybe 1 or 2. By this time, I was getting extremely anxious, because I didn't know what he was going to do except amputate. I was afraid that was coming. At any rate, he didn't show up at 7 o'clock that night. And by this time, matter of fact, about 4 o'clock, I told my wife, I said, if you call back home and tell any of the folks that you see, don't come. I'll not be a good camper today. This is not a good day for visitation. They didn't apparently get the call, or either they could just came anyway, but it was my wife and her 2 cousins, are a trio. And another lady came, Mary Louise Adamy came with them. Mary Louise Demers came with them. And at any rate, when they got there, after sitting a while, and I was so frustrated, and I was in lots of pain, and really concerned because he hadn't come in. They sang a song. They'd only sang it one time. They only sung it one time, and Eileen found it. And they sang this, I'm glad I know who Jesus is. And when they sang that song, peace came over me. And I felt like things were going to be better. I mean, just in spite of it all. As far as I know, when he came in that night, and it was night before he came in, he did not give me any kind of pain medication to do work on that leg. And as a matter of fact, when he took screws out later on, take the halo off, he took it off without giving any kind of pain medication. And the first screw they took out, you could have just about taken a bath in my hands. I mean, they were just as wet as you poured water right in, and the pain was that bad. So I learned a little trick. I found out when they're gonna pull the screw out, I'd take me a little bit of a pain pill, because it was bad. At any rate, when he got ready to do the surgery, he decided he was gonna do the surgery. He said the first 2 hours, said nothing went right. Now you got to remember, I still got fragments of that bone. They've actually, they left a fragment in there, and it's gone in between two bones, and it's made a bone. The bone is actually grown together through the years there. Anyway, he said he worked the first 2 hours and nothing happened. And he said a divine power came on the scene. And he said when that happened, said everything fell in place. Now it was a 2-hour surgery supposedly, and 5 hours later, before I got out of surgery. And the first thing I felt when I woke up, I said, oh, I hope they've got me on my bed. I don't want them to move me or touch me. I was in worse pain after the surgery than I was when I broke it, when they had the break. Nonetheless, I looked down and found out I was on there on my bed, which was really, really great. But as time went on, we made the trip up and down the road every week. And he would look at this leg and, kind of shake his head. Well, if I saw a bump coming in the highway, I would take my arms and pick my leg up and hold it till we got by the bump. And if you just moved it anyway, you touch that halo, it's excruciating pain. And my wife said, if you're hurting that bad, something's bad wrong with that ankle. Well, it wasn't getting any. Matter of fact, I remember so well when I finally got the place where I could wear a shoe. I had a size 12 on one foot and a size 9.5 on the other foot. And my cousin asked me, said, is that tape on your leg down there? I said, no, that's swelling on my leg down there. It was just that big. It was enormous. It was enormous. So anyway you touched it, it hurt. And after about 4 months, the doctor told my wife they'd take x-rays every week, and he said, look, it's not going to get better. They took bone out of my hip and fused it, and it wasn't going to get well. So he told her, he said, look, there's nothing left to do but to amputate. And by the way, down the road to 10 years later, when I got the swelling so bad, I got so I couldn't walk on it, I went to two different orthopedic surgeons, and they basically both told me the same thing. They said, we can fuse it, which is already fused, I can't move it, so that'd be crazy. Or we can amputate it, and that wasn't in my book of ideals, so I didn't want it amputated. At any rate, I ended up wearing a compression hose and a brace for about a year, and I wear compression hose every day on it right now. And I've gotten to the place where it's getting kind of painful again, where it swells a lot. And I heard a lot of times I can't go from one room to the other, but God has helped me. I'm still walking on it. But at any rate, we had, after the wreck, they came back to the house one day. They were going to do getting ready for Valentine's supper, and the guy wanted me to ride with him to pick up the steaks. So I rode with him. Before we left, we were eating supper, and my daughter came by, and her name's Tanya, and she accidentally touched the thing on my leg, the brace on my halo on my leg, and when she did, boy, I'm telling you what, it hurt so bad I jerked it and screamed. But I knew at that moment that God had touched my leg. We went back on Monday and they did another x-ray, and they brought it in, the nurse brought it in and hung it up for the doctor to see. And when she put it up on the screen, I only went in and looked, and she went to holler, and she said, I see bone growth. Now, they were talking about starting to take it off, needless to say, an amputation. The doctor said this is going to be at least 6 months, then moved up to 9 months. At any rate, it was 9 months before I was able to walk on it again. The picture that you see, the article that they did, was about me preaching the first time after having actually having the wreck. I went on the fourth Sunday, and I told my nephew, I said, if you come down and get me in the car, I'm gonna go to church and see if I can handle it sitting there for an hour, and if I can, I'm gonna preach next Sunday. And so the next Sunday I went to preach. Well, we got something like a pajama. It was a little different than that, but it had a zip-up leg in it, so it could extend over the halo. I couldn't, of course, wear a shoe on that foot. It was exposed. Everybody could see how bad it looked and how blue it looked. But nonetheless, I preached on the fifth Sunday. One of the unique things about what happened to me is this thing. When I read the doctor's notes, he said, look, I expect the ankle to collapse at any moment. His last words to me, he said, I have never seen one broken this bad that we were able to save. It wasn't them that saved my ankle, it was God that saved my ankle. Folks, I'm gonna tell you something, nothing's impossible with God. Gave me 30 minutes to live, I'm still alive. And now God has allowed me to walk on this. This is a 30-year-old paper that you're looking at. And God has given me 30 years of grace. Let me say this to you. I don't know what you're going through in your life. I don't know what battles you're facing, what burdens you're experiencing. I don't know what kind of physical needs you have or emotional needs you have. I don't know what kind of financial needs you're facing. I don't know what kind of marital troubles you might be having. But let me tell you this, we have a God who cares. And he says, come unto me, all you that labor and heavy laden, I'll give you rest. That is his promise. He can help you if you will just allow him to help you. Look at me, a 2-time miracle, just on my life itself, given 30 minutes to live, and then having the opportunity to go forward and do something for Christ for 30 years, even after having the accident. And I thank God he touched me, and he will touch you as well if you just allow him to do that. God bless you now. Bye-bye.